The past subjunctive in French expresses an action that is uncertain, desired, doubted, or emotional in the past. If the present subjunctive indicates that an action may happen, the past subjunctive tells us that an action may have happened already before something else. In my previous video, I provided a comprehensive explanation of what makes the mood as a whole, later illustrating the present subjunctive in French. I highly recommend watching the previous video before continuing with this lesson, as that video will help you understand all subjunctives in French. Therefore, it's not necessary to explain the mood in this video. We should already know what it is and what makes it, so we can immediately start with the formation of the past subjunctive. Because it is the past, its formation takes the pattern from the compound past, with the auxiliary verbs avoir or être in the present subjunctive instead of the indicative. So, the pattern is avoir or être in the present subjunctive plus the past participle of the main verb. Considering the use of auxiliary verbs and past participles, these two topics were shown and thoroughly explained in a past French video, so I recommend that you watch it too. In the previous video, I showed subjunctive endings, and such endings will sometimes be used with avoir or être. Because the two verbs have irregular forms, we have to remember them individually and use them in the present subjunctive with a past participle. This way, we create a structure of the past subjunctive. Also, don't forget that être is used with verbs of movement, change of state, and reflexive verbs, and that past participles must agree in gender and number with the subject. These are the conjugations that we will need to form the past subjunctive, which will begin with the idea of uncertainty. Que j'ai, que tu aies, qu'il, il, on est, que nous ayons, que vous ayez, qu'il, elle ait. Que je sois, que tu sois, qu'il, il, on soit, que nous soyons, que vous soyez, qu'il, il soit. Some conjugations may sound the same, so say them with the subjects to tell the difference. This is how the past subjunctive is formed, and we can use it in the following examples. Il faut que je finisse mes devoirs. Je doute qu'ils aient compris. Je suis heureux qu'ils soient arrivés. Je regrette qu'ils se soient disputés. You can see how the idea of uncertainty really works, because the sentences use a demand, doubt, or emotion which may seem weird, but they all make the subjunctive. You can also see the difference between the use of avoir and être, along with how participles change to match the gender and number of their subjects. Even so, we can have more examples that give different ways of how uncertainty is conceptualized. Emotion, doubt, necessity, desire, and even a conjunction. While the present subjunctive is the most common in written and spoken French, it's important to understand how practical the past subjunctive is. We can use it when the main clause is in the present, future, or past, and when the action of the subordinate clause happened before the action in the main clause. In such a case, we can compare sentences from the present so that you can see this distinction. However, the past subjunctive often sounds formal or literary in spoken French. In everyday speech, people replace it with the compound past after expressions that would typically activate the subjunctive, like Je suis content qu'il est venu. This phrase should be in the subjunctive mood, but in speech, it's common to say the indicative. Still, the past subjunctive is required in writing, especially in essays in formal French. The last thing to note about the past subjunctive is that there are no irregular unique forms in this mood. The only technical irregularities are in the stems of the auxiliary verbs and the past participles. Once you've chosen the auxiliary, the past participle follows the same pattern as in the compound past, which means that any verb that has an irregular participle in the indicative will have the same form as in the subjunctive. If you're interested in seeing the most common participles, the compound past video will immensely help in this case. But the point is that the past subjunctive doesn't introduce any new irregular forms. It simply takes subjunctive endings and combines them with avoir or être in the present subjunctive, thereby making the past subjunctive, along with using participles. Once you've mastered these two concepts, the rest will be simple. Overall, this is how the past subjunctive fully works in French, and in the next video, the imperfect subjunctive will be explained.